folks, and welcome back to the channel. Today we have the 2023 Nissan Frontier, which is the new body style, the new Frontier. Finally, after like almost 20 years, they came out with the new Frontier. I have a particular soft spot for Frontiers because I own a Frontier. In fact, I own the first year of the last generation, which is 2005, and they didn't make this one, this new body, until I think 2021. So the same body, same engine, transmission, base, pretty much the entirety of that time. In 2020, they did switch to the new engine and transmission in the current, or the previous generation body style is kind of to test it out. And then finally they upgraded the body, the interior. This is a big upgrade over the old Frontier. Again, it hadn't been redesigned since 2005. So for all of the Frontier fans out there, this was an exciting moment. They finally came out with a new one. So we're gonna take a look at this one a little bit. I drove it yesterday for about 4 hours on the highway and some back roads, hauling a little bit of weight, and I really enjoyed it. It has a lot more power than the one that I have. The old one I think had, if I recall, I think it was 268 horsepower. This one has 310, which I think is one of the highest horsepower amounts, if not the highest horsepower amount in the mid-size segment. And what's nice about this is there's, for the base model, there's not a base model 4-cylinder anymore. It's this V6, 310 horsepower, no matter which one you get. And one of the things that was always great about the Frontier is it was a cheap entry-level truck. You can still get into a Frontier for just under $30,000, and that's with the 310 horsepower V6 and the 9-speed automatic transmission. Now, tragically, with this generation, as with pretty much every car that's out today, they've gotten rid of the manual transmission. I know it's going to make a lot of you sad. I wish that it had a manual transmission. It does allow you to manually change the gears, but it's not quite the same as rowing your own, which is a dying art, which is very sad. But check this out. We're going to look at the new Frontier. Now, this is a mid-size truck, so there's not a ton of room in the back seat. I wouldn't want to sit back here as an adult. I'm 6 foot tall. I wouldn't want to be back here very long. I mean, your knees are kind of up. I have this set, and I tend to sit kind of close. If this was back all the way, there wouldn't be much knee room, and you are kind of bolt upright. I don't think there's any way, no way to adjust the angle of the seat. So it is not the most comfortable rear seats, but it is a mid-size truck. That's going to be a problem that you tend to have compared to a full-size, which tends to have mountains of room back here. But other than that, the seats have plenty of cushion. You do have a USB-C and a standard USB port back here for your charging. You know, the kids would be fine back here. Under the hood, you have a 3.8 liter V6 with 310 horsepower and 281 pound-feet of torque. Also notice how this all moves when I jiggle the hood around, that metal flexing. I don't care for that. And also, from the front of the car to the front of the engine, there's quite a bit of space. So you're going to have to be reaching a lot further in there if you do want to work on it. Nobody's interested in buying this new truck to work on it, but me, I like to keep them to 250,000 miles, so eventually I'm working on it. The interior on the new Frontier is nothing very fancy compared to trucks today, but compared to the old Frontier, it's a pretty big improvement. The big touch screen is very nice. The controls are a lot more solid feeling, so overall a big improvement. So with this one you get a nicer interior than the previous versions. You have a touch screen here. You got Apple CarPlay, which the previous body style did have. But this is just a little bit newer design. You've got a USB-C and a standard USB charging port down at the bottom, and pretty basic heating controls on this model. And then down here's where you have, like, if you have heated seats, those will go down there, and some other control options. If you have that Pro 4X, you have the locker button, and then you've got this 4-wheel drive selector, which is pretty much the same as the previous truck. So not a huge difference between this one and that one, but the interior is a step up. It is nicer, but it is a truck, and I think the people that buy this are going to be truck buyers. The plastic up here is nicer than the previous version, but it's nothing super fancy.
They did get rid of the sunglasses holder, which I have in my truck, so I will miss that. You would just pop down and throw your sunglasses in there. You only have one power port. The older version had two, but you do have the two USBs down at the bottom. And you used to have a power point here in the center console as well. The steering wheel is a standard Nissan steering wheel. So you'll see this in a lot of different cars, the Altima, the Maxima, but it's a pretty good layout. I like having the buttons all on the side, the left side, because I tend to drive left-handed, but you've got your controls to adjust your heads-up display up here, so you get your fuel economy. You can show what's on your CarPlay, your driving aids, your tire pressures, the stop-start, which I would drive me nuts. There's also one on here for four-wheel drive settings and your auxiliary gauges. The four-wheel drive or off-road setting is pretty neat because it tells you where the power's going and your camber on the road. So that's kind of a fun little improvement. And then you also have your volume control, your Siri, and your phone all on one side. So I like that a lot. My minivan has the volume control over on the other side, and I almost never have my hand on that side of the steering wheel. So I like this steering wheel layout, and it is more comfortable of a steering wheel than the older version. They did move some of your buttons down here to the left, like your hill descent control, your cargo lamp, and the traction control. That used to be over on the center. I don't like this traction control button because it's kind of hard to reach, and the first thing I usually do when I get in a truck with traction control is turn off the traction control. Now, like I said, all the new trucks, they only have an automatic. Now, this automatic is way better than the automatic that was in the old truck. I think this is a 9-speed, and you can manually change gears. So you're going to get better fuel efficiency, better power delivery, but no manual. And that's a pretty sad day. There's not very many vehicles left you can buy a manual in, unfortunately.
Now, one of the things that was that kept the Frontier selling for so long without a model change is they typically had the cheapest truck that you could buy on the market. One of the big complaints I had about my Frontier was the transmission was slow, clunky. I think it was a 5 or a 6-speed, and it's not very fuel efficient. But this one, 9-speed transmission, it makes a nice little noise. It's pretty quiet in stock form. The first thing that I'd be doing is putting like a Flowmaster Series 40 on the back like I have on my truck, much to my wife's annoyance and probably all of my neighbors, because every car that belongs to me has to make a little bit of noise. Anyway, so I'm driving it down a highway now at 75 miles an hour, and it is quite comfortable, much more comfortable than the older ones are. Now, mine has special suspension that I added to it later. I put Bilstein shocks, Bilstein springs, and some Old Man Emu leafs on the rear of my truck, so it wouldn't be comparable to the stock version that was out then. But this is much nicer in the ride quality. I don't think it tends to dive around as much as my Frontier did before I did the suspension upgrade. So that's nice as well. You can't be in a truck in the snow without having a little bit of donut fun. Especially with the beautiful sunset, a little bit of figure eights. Oh man, it does pretty good donuts.
Overall, I really like the new Frontier. I definitely think it's one of the best looking midsize trucks out there. I like the engine and transmission in it a lot. However, if you're looking for something with a nicer interior, I think that there are better options. If it was me, I'd have the Pro 4X version because of the off-road suspension and the rear locker. But the Frontier doesn't tend to have quite as much ground clearance as something like a Tacoma. If you're looking to off-road or overland, it may not be the best option out there on the market. Like a Tacoma or a Jeep Gladiator are going to be more off-road worthy, but they also are quite a bit more expensive, especially on the used market. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.